I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting of the Audit Committee of the State Bar of California. My name is Mark Tony, and I serve as chair of the Audit Committee for the State Bar. And I want to go ahead and get started and ask for the secretary to call the roll, please.
Buenaventura,
Present.
Harrison,
Present.
Buser,
Present.
Stevens,
Present.
Tony.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Excellent, excellent. We always start our meetings with public comment. We want to keep public comment to about 2 minutes. And I think most people are familiar with how to use public comment either on Zoom or on phone. And so I'm going to ask if anyone has signed up in advance for public comment.
There are no advance signups, sure, Tony.
Okay. Um, Please, if you'd like to make public comment, raise your hand if you're on Zoom, and if you're on the phone, press the *9 key on your phone pad, and then we'll know that you'd like to make a public comment.
Chair Tony, I don't see any raised hands at the time.
Okay. In that case, we will go ahead and close public comment and proceed with the meeting. Thank you, everybody. So we start off with the chair's report. First thing I'm going to say is to thank my colleagues on the audit committee, my fellow trustees on the audit committee for all making the time to come to this meeting. We all have incredibly busy schedules, and I know we had to work real hard to find a time that worked for everyone. So thank you very much. I want to say a couple of things about this meeting and the next meeting. This meeting, I expect, will be relatively efficient and relatively short. The next meeting, however, I expect to be longer. And it's because we have two major items to discuss next meeting, at least two. One is we need to review the AI update from the staff, where, we did adopt a policy in November, the Board of Trustees, but we've got to implement the policy. We've got to see what things need to be reviewed, which things we think are fine to go forward without being reviewed. So there's going to be a presentation on AI. The second is we're going to have a presentation on the IT audit. Okay, and that's very important. This is about security of the whole state bar digital uh, environment, if you will. And that is going to take a little time. I'll also remind you that at the next meeting, we're going to have to review the annual audit, okay, the draft audit. So just want to let you know we're going to run through this one quicker. The next one we may need to schedule for 2 hours. Just want to give advance notice so everybody knows what to expect. Any questions from trustees? Okay. It appears we have the next thing is the minutes, approval of the November 4th, 2025 open session minutes. Does any trustee have any corrections or modifications that they'd like to make? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt them.
So move. Second.
Thank you. Trustee Buenaventura made the motion. Trustee Huser seconded the motion. If I could ask the committee coordinator to please call the roll.
Buenaventura,
Aye.
Harrison,
Abstain.
Huser,
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
4 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstain. The motion carries.
Thank you. We don't have any items on the consent agenda. The first item 3.1 on the business agenda is approval of the 2025 quarter 4 board and management travel expense report. And this item is being presented by the controller for the state bar, Coco Zen. Take it away, Coco.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Today I don't have a PowerPoint slide to share, but I will just provide a quick overview of the state bar's travel expense report that's included in the agenda. It covers the travel costs reported for the state bar's management and board of trustee during the fourth quarter of 2025. It has 3 parts, including the cash reimbursements, the purchase car expenses, and also attachment C, which is the direct payments made to a travel agency. The total costs reported during the fourth quarter are $35,574. So a detailed breakdown is included in the attached document. I will not go through individual transaction, but I'm happy to answer any question that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open this up to my colleagues for questions or for comments.
I have a couple of questions.
Please, Ryan.
All right.
Trustee Harrison. Yes.
And this is more born from curiosity. I see that there was a Clear conference where there was, I think, the greatest expense for a hotel stay, which was about $1,200. And then there was another conference, the Dreamforce conference. I'm wondering what purpose was served for attending those conferences, the Clear conference and the Dreamforce conference.
Coco, would you like me to?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Would you like to take that?
Sure. So the CLEAR conference relates to admissions. So that's where you're seeing, I think Tara and Donna Hershkowitz, our director of admissions, and our chief of admissions attended that to understand innovations in the bar exam space. The Dreamforce conference was attended by our chief information officer. As you may know, we use some Salesforce products, particularly actually on the admissions side. And so that was the purpose of that participation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question, Trustee Harrison. Any other questions? I'd like to make a comment, which is I really appreciate seeing the level of detail and particularly to see board trustees reimbursement expenses to be elaborated and split out. I think it's important for us as trustees that this is open to the public, that the public is aware of our expenses and our accountability. Hearing no more comments, I would entertain a motion to adopt the fourth quarter travel expense report.
So moved.
Trustee Harrison moved.
Second.
Trustee Stevens seconded. If I could ask the committee coordinator to please call the roll.
Buenaventura,
Aye.
Harrison,
Aye.
User,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion carries.
Thank you, everybody. Next item on our business agenda is item 3.2. It's the approval of the 2026 Audit Committee Annual Work Plan. And this is going to be presented by our Deputy Executive Director of the State Bar, Erica Doherty. Please.
Thank you, Chair Tony. So good morning again, everyone. The purpose of this discussion is to review and approve the 2026 Audit Committee Work Plan, which has been developed in collaboration with the committee chair and is aligned with the last year, or the second to last year, I guess, of the State Bar's 2022 to 2027 strategic plan. As you know, the work plan is designed to guide the committee's activities throughout the year, ensuring that the audit committee meets its oversight responsibilities in advancing the State Bar's strategic goals. Many of these things are recurring items that you have seen before in past work plans, as well as some of the new areas of focus, such as the AI governance framework, to reflect emerging priorities for the audit committee. So very quickly, just a couple things to highlight that are different from last year's work plan is that we removed the single audit review of federal funds because the State Bar is not likely to meet that threshold to require the audit for this year. All of the financial statements audits have been consolidated into one item because they're typically presented as one item, so for efficiency's sake. As Chair Tony described earlier in his chair's report, we updated the cybersecurity audit timeline that was originally going to be reported at the end of last year. It's now going to be reported at the next audit committee meeting surrounding the May trustees meeting. And then there's some updates to reflect the fact that the AI governance framework has been adopted. So it just kind of tweaks the language a little bit to now describe the ongoing biannual report out that will go to the audit committee, again, starting at that May meeting. So unless there are questions or modifications, then we would ask that the committee review and approve the work plan. And once it's approved, it will be forwarded to the board executive committee for final approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. I'm going to open it up to questions or comments or anything that trustees are interested in discussing. Well, I'll go ahead and get started because I have a couple. So let's talk about, I want to talk about the audit for a minute. And I'd like you to remind me the timeline of the audit. When is the deadline for it to be presented to the state legislature? I just don't keep these things in my head. Okay, so let's start with that and work backwards. What's our obligations here?
So,
Sure. Go ahead. Get sure, Aline, go ahead.
okay. Hi, Chair Tony. So based on the information that's posted publicly, we understand it to be in the summer, but I also wanted to remind everybody that we are under confidentiality obligations during the pendency of the audit. So we are not in the position to discuss details at the direction of the audit. Oh, wrong audit?
I think he's referring to the financial statements audits, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, I'm talking about the annual, and it's confusing because they're both done by the state auditor, but this is the one I'm speaking of is
Okay.
the annual review of the finances that happens no matter what, every year. I think.
Okay, but
I'll make
apologies.
things more confusing. There's actually going to be three in this sense. So we have the annual financial statements audit,
Yeah.
which is due May 31st to the legislature and to the Supreme Court. I believe that's the one you were referring
That's the
to.
one I was asking about. Thank you very much.
Yes.
With the audit committee, we should try to figure out what are the audits. I'm sorry. Keep going.
We also have the audit that Aline was referring to, is a one-time audit that we are working through, and then we have the biannual audit that the state bar is subject to every other year by statute as well, which I believe will be happening commencing at the end of 2026 and going into early 2027.
Okay. So the reason I asked about the financial audit, thank you for the clarification, helps me anyway, um, is when you look at the schedule of board meetings and our meeting, we should be able to meet that deadline with our currently scheduled meeting schedule. We have a board meeting scheduled for May. Is that correct? And
Correct.
then, we'll just make sure to schedule a audit committee meeting a couple weeks ahead of time. Okay, so that was my first question. I just wanted to confirm. There are two items that have in our work plan that have due dates in quarter 2 that I want to discuss about moving to quarter 3 because quarter 2 is so packed. One is the whistleblower anti-retaliation program reporting, which is listed as quarter 2 to come to the audit committee. The other is the Office of Public Trust liaison reporting. It's also listed as quarter 2. I'm wondering if they don't have terrible urgency, if we can move those to quarter 3 so we can focus on the things I think have higher priority for our quarter 2 meeting.
Why don't I start with the PTL annual report and then Aline can take the whistleblower one. For the
Sure.
PTL annual report, so that'll be a report for the 2025 cycle. As I think many of you know, we currently have a vacancy in the public trust liaison role. The Office of Public Trust Liaison still has many people that are supporting that function. So I think that timeline would make sense. What we could do, of course, is we plan to have that report actually published before what would be essentially the July audit committee meeting, and we could distribute it to you all at that time and publish it. But obviously, the presentation and overview could happen at the July related audit committee meeting.
Does that sound okay with my colleagues in general?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Aline on the whistleblower anti-retaliation.
I don't see any concerns with moving the report out to July.
Okay,
But
thank you.
we'll plan to bring it to you in July.
Okay, those were really the only comments I had on this plan after I reviewed it. Just trying to make sure we don't completely overload the May meeting beyond what we have to do. So thank you for your understanding. Any other questions or comments on the audit committee annual work plan?
I just had one question. When we have the AI report, I guess at the next session, there was some communication from the Supreme Court about use of AI and responding to complaints and things. I want to make sure that that would be part of the staff report and letting us know what the status of that is and what is or is not permitted based on that guidance.
Yes, George OCTC plans to report back on that issue in May or in the May audit meeting, as well as the May board meeting for updates.
Thank you for that question, Trustee Huser. I think this is also a question that you and I can bring up at our next liaison meeting with OCTC and with George Cardona, the Chief Trial Counsel, and see what his plan is and to indicate the audit committee would like a presentation then. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, hearing no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 Audit Committee work plan.
And Chair Tony, we have a revised resolution that to incorporate the changes that were just discussed, if helpful, that Angela could share.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
With the caveat that Aline hasn't seen the modification yet.
Okay. Let's give us a minute to take a look and see if this meets our intent. It certainly meets my intent from what I had asked about.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Harrison moves.
I'll second.
Trustee Huser seconds the item. May I ask the board coordinator for the committee coordinator for a roll call vote?
Bonaventura,
Aye.
Harrison,
Aye.
User,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion carries.
Excellent, excellent. We're reaching the end of our agenda. And before we close, is there any comment or question that any trustee has or any announcement that any staff has? In that case, I'll ask people to be checking your emails about scheduling the next meeting. Again, I appreciate everybody working really hard to come up with a date that worked for all of us. Thank you very much. And with that, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Nice to see you.